Welcome back to the Fine Print. I'm Caleb Teskey, and I'm joined again. We got Derek Porter, Devin Dannat, and Katie Tilton from Clean Cannabis Vermont and Hardwick. Now, I'd like to spend a little bit of this second chunk just sort of talking about any issues you guys might have had with the legislation, the control board rules. And I also wanted to ask, you guys said you don't have a application in yet. Is that correct?
Actually, we do now, since we last spoke. We've all had concerns, more or less. We're kind of just working through it as we go. But as far as the legislation goes and some of the rules, I mean, to this day, I'm sure they're still changing. We're seeing new things pop up that we've had to add to our application process. So it's been, I guess, challenging to stay on top of it because we've been so involved in the construction process and focusing on making sure we have the appropriate infrastructure on our building to satisfy all these requirements that we've kind of relied on our attorneys a bit to stay on top of the changing rules and the up and coming things that are added to it.
Are you guys working with Tim and Andrew?
Yes. Yeah, we are. So
how do you feel about the services that they provide?
I mean, they haven't done anything wrong by us yet, so we're working through the process. They've taken on a huge commitment, being that they're kind of the only show in town catering to all these startup businesses. They've definitely bit off a lot.
Yeah, they got a big plate.
Yeah. So we've come to rely on them pretty heavily to make sure that we're in compliance and doing all the proper things. I think they're doing a good job. I think it's a pretty overwhelming task, and they're doing it.
Yeah, that's a lot of clients for a very small office.
It is.
Yeah, but there's some new faces in the office.
Okay, so they got some help.
Yeah, they do. So we've ran into hurdles, as I'm sure every single applicant has. We had to hold off. We thought we had everything together months ago for application, but some of the things that have been added, we were kind of in a rare stance, I guess, going into this, because we started construction and really planning our facility and our business, not knowing if we'd ever really be able to use this facility for cultivation of THC because of the size. Back when we were designing it and looking at starting construction, we were kind of saddled with pursuing just the smokable hemp market and producing high quality indoor grown hemp for that market, and hoping to save enough money to put up a smaller THC grow, because we were under the assumption initially that the amount of canopy we had in that building was going to be too great of scale to pull a license. We thought we were going to be limited to like 1,500 square foot canopies. So as the legislation kind of evolved and the rules changed, we were pleasantly surprised that changed in our favor, because we have obviously lots financially tied up in this building, and the cost to grow hemp versus the cost to grow marijuana is the same, really. So it made sense for us to transition, but we are currently licensed for hemp cultivation. We're currently under an ag exemption. We're considered a farm. So there were certain benefits to constructing our facility under the ag exemption, and that was beneficial in some capacity. But now that we're looking at transitioning into THC, that definitely raised some eyebrows and some questions surrounding.
Are you going to be? Sorry to interrupt you. Are you going to be are qualified for those same exemptions once you start this operation?
We will not, because THC, the THC content in marijuana, because of the federal prohibition, it's not recognized under the Farm Bill as being an agricultural crop. And, Vermont's not deviating from what that bill states. So as of right now, when we transition into THC, we will lose our ag exemption. So that kind of created some gray area for us during construction surrounding, the ag division, Ag 250, the control board, and our latest hurdle is the division of fire and safety.
I was just going to ask about that. Yeah.
So that's kind of went through a wrench in the works for us as far as getting our application in. One of the latest things really to be included in that process was getting a CO or an exemption from the fire marshal, and you can imagine after being in our facility, that's not one that they're going to give you an exemption on for that kind of scale. So
Now that's the certificate of occupancy.
yes, yep. So fortunately for us, when we were working with our engineering team and our architects, we had the foresight to realize eventually there's a possibility that we may be able to use this building for cultivation of THC. So we ensured that throughout the design process, the building was designed and engineered to accommodate and take into consideration all state energy codes, fire and safety compliance. So we didn't have to go through and invest in retrofitting for infrastructure that we knew we would need down the road. It's just kind of slowed the process down because the state is still learning. We've all had bitter moments surrounding some of these conversations because they've been very costly for us. We've been misguided a time or two because some of these agencies just don't have it figured out, which is understandable. We're all learning. I don't want to say anything negative because all the people that we've worked with directly have been pretty accommodating and understanding that one, it's costly for us. We're making all the right moves to play by the rules. But kind of there's opportunity for a little more positive planning and foresight from the powers that be above all these local people. There are definitely some missed opportunities, and it's cost people like us a tremendous amount of money to kind of backtrack to play by the rules.
You'd be a good politician, Devin. Boy, you word things very nicely.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's a very diplomatic way to say that.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, and then the other thing that we ran into that posed a little bit of a challenge is some of these different agencies around the state have varying definitions on how they view things. So, it was trying to see like, which department am I talking to today? Okay, so they're viewing it, this way versus, another department might have the same terminology but a slightly different definition to it.
Prime example is the simplistic term a farm. So the division of agriculture and Act 250 and the division of fire and safety, all three of those agencies have a different definition of what a farm is. So as you can imagine, we've had to work with all three of these agencies on this process surrounding what a farm is, and being that every one of them has a different definition.
Could you send me those sometime if you have them handy? The definition.
We could probably look them up and get them for you. Yeah,
that would be great.
You can imagine how challenging it is, and again, not to discredit the work these people are doing, but there's no interdepartmental. These are all state agencies. None of them communicate with one another. That was very challenging for us, aside from having different definitions, trying to come to a common goal and agreement, not having them be on the same page and having to work together with all of them, and us being the middleman and trying to, kind of connect all of these parts and pieces. It was challenging. There's definitely opportunity there. I think that they can get there. We've worked pretty closely with a lot of these agencies, and they learn a lot at our expense. We were one of the firsts to construct a facility like this. So we feel fortunate we've been able to build some good personal relationships with some of these people from these agencies. They've actually come to us to ask questions, and they've learned a lot.
Isn't that fun when that starts happening?
It is. I mean, we feel that it's mutually beneficial to have those relationships for sure, but it was rough in the beginning for sure, but we've got there and we can see the finish line.
I've noticed that a lot in state agencies where you have really good people kind of working in just a silly system with a strange framework.
Yeah, it's hard because we talk to these people and it's unfortunate their hands are tied because they got to go to the powers that be. So,
but I will say COVID has definitely made its mark on the world, but specifically in our lives surrounding this, it's affected the cost of materials. It's affected all of the positions in these state agencies. A lot of these people are extremely overworked, and you would think that the conversations we've had in depth with these people, that, at a moment's notice, they would say, oh yeah, Clean Cannabis, I remember this project, but they've got so much going on. You've got in some divisions, you've got 2 people that are covering the entire state and all these permits. So it slowed the process down tremendously. And these people are doing the best they can to make things happen. But they're spread far and few between, just like all the retailers and restaurants, people are having to make do with the people that are willing to work. Yeah. For
Yeah, I feel like I have a new appreciation for how much information you really have to absorb, and keeping it all straight is just the rules alone, just like the control board rules when they were going through that. It's like, okay, well, you wake up tomorrow morning and this changed and that changed, or they added this, or it's impossible, I think, for one person to really stay on top of all that.
Well, and this is a prime example. We're doing this interview over Zoom. A lot of these state divisions are still communicating strictly over the phone and through Zoom meetings. And, you can talk to people for hours over the phone or over a video chat, but there's something to be said for sitting across the table from somebody and working things out. Yeah. And I think there was a lot lost in translation there, and a lot of lost opportunity by not being able to meet in person.
I agree with you. And I think that is certainly one of the downfalls of online communication in general. I mean, since its inception, really, a lot gets lost for sure. Let me talk a little bit about banking, because that's been a super fun issue for everyone. I don't know. I thought this was just a strange time for a merger with these banks. I'm not trying to say it's anything weird, but now both of the biggest credit unions in Vermont are charging people extra fees to bank with them. Do you mind telling us which one you've gone with, or if you've made a decision yet?
Good. So we've actually onboarded with Vermont State Employee Credit Union. And so we actually went through the same with our hemp, like being licensed for hemp. When we first started our bank account, we fell under a, just like an additional,
compliance.
Exactly. Yeah. So we had to pay a small fee to just have an extra set of eyes to look through things, make sure that we're all good.
For the hemp?
Yeah, even just for hemp. Yep.
How much of an extra fee? Do you mind telling me? You don't have to, but I'm curious.
It wasn't tremendous. I want to say it was like $50 a month.
Okay.
And it was, we definitely saw that there was interaction and compliance. We were contacted periodically through the process. We have this bank account that we've been cycling a lot of money through for the cost of construction. And, they monitor licensing, and they would reach out periodically saying, hey, you guys are registered with us as being hemp cultivators. We notice you still haven't pulled a license. We're not seeing any transactions based on any of that. So we're just following up. So the fee, the $50 a month to have an account there, for me, I guess it didn't seem unreasonable, because they have an entire division dedicated to compliance and monitoring this. So obviously that's an added cost.
So they reached out. Did you just say they reached out to you and said that they haven't seen any transactions, and that was something that caused them to reach out?
So what they do is periodically they look at their clientele that are licensed in hemp cultivation to make sure that they're in good standing with the state, and they know that, so they must get some kind of list of registry, the companies that are registered for hemp cultivation, and they had noticed that we hadn't pulled a license at that point. So they were just inquiring where we were at that time with our project to make sure that we weren't cultivating without a license. Ultimately, is what I got out of it.
Okay.
So far as the fees for the other credit unions, we're playing ball. We have to have a bank account to be licensed. The fees, it's tough to harp on because we don't know all the behind the scenes. Being that THC right now is still under federal prohibition, I would say that they are taking on some risk for sure. So I would imagine that part of that is to cover that risk, and maybe an insurance piece to cover the bank. They're having to create divisions too that monitor this industry, I'm sure, pretty closely, because there's definitely some loopholes. People, I think, are going to be getting creative and trying to.
I was told every time you make a deposit, they have to file a suspicious activity report?
So, like you just said, that's added work for them. But at the same time, let's be honest, we're all getting in this for the same reason. Ultimately, it's a business. We're looking to make money, and they see this as an opportunity. I mean, they're offering up a service to us that we need for compliance with what the state's requiring. Yeah, there's money involved with infrastructure they're having to add, but they're also in the game of making money too. So they see an opportunity just like the rest of us. I mean, am I going to accuse them?
I'm sure they see it. Yeah.
I mean, that's up for everyone's interpretation. But again, like all these other startups we talked about that are looking for a piece of the game, they're in it too. They're looking to make money.
Now, do you think this was an interesting question I was talking about the other day? The rule with VSECU is 1.5% of your monthly deposits, I believe.
Right.
Do you think that's going to incentivize people to maybe just not deposit the money?
Definitely can.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but it all has to go through metrics. It's going to have to be accounted for to some extent. So,
do you have to deposit the money though? Say you sold $1 million worth of flower in a month and you just had $1 million sitting. Are you required to put it in the bank, or could you just keep all the cash and declare it and then pay your taxes in cash at the end of the year?
I mean, I suppose it's a possibility, but for us, I mean, when you're talking that much money, it seems like it would raise red flags, and we have way too much on the line to raise red flags for compliance issues.
I was just curious about that because
well, think about it too.
There's any requirements that say you have to deposit the money in a bank.
I haven't seen anything.
Not necessarily, but think of it this way. A huge concern surrounding this industry is the fact that it's cash heavy because of what you're talking about. So say we had a deal where we sold $1 million worth of product. It means we have $1 million worth of cash that we're having to house and secure. Where are you going to keep it? You're going to keep it in your facility and locked up. And what does that do? It incentivizes the risk of somebody wanting to come and rob you. And that's a concern of local law enforcement.
It should be. I've read a ton of stories just from around the country. I mean, that is definitely a legit concern.
So for us, I mean, if it's going to save us 1%, but there's the potential of being robbed, and what is it going to cost us to fix our building? What's it going to cost us if we lose that cash? And insurance isn't going to say, well, yeah, we'll help you recoup your cost. Here's $1 million. So,
I don't think you'll ever hear them say that.
We're not sitting here trying to preach that we're above wanting to make cash transactions, but you got to think it through. There's a lot of liability that goes along with having cash sit around like that.
Yeah, I wasn't even planning to ask that, but I was just talking with my buddy about it last night, and he brought it up, and I thought it was a great point. Yeah, he's like, maybe I just won't put the cash in a bank. It's like, I got giant safes. He said he's got a vault. I was like, all right, well, if you got a vault,
if you have somebody eager enough to get to it, even if they can't get to it, they're going to cause damage. It's going to cost you money.
Right. All right. Cool. That was a fun little thought experiment. Where'd this other one go? I had something in here. There we go. You said there was another. I wanted to help you sort of get some maybe more hits to your website, and you said there was another company that had a very similar name as you that is maybe getting some of your traffic.
Yeah.
You want to clear that up?
So we're just a couple of people here, when we formed our company, we went through the same process anybody else does in the state, with the Secretary of State essentially doing a search to see if there's any other businesses that are registered with the same name. And we picked our name. We love it. We think it represents us and what we're looking to achieve here, the Clean Cannabis Company. And I think back then when we had kind of done some Google searches, not really much had popped up that really was concerning for us. But there is a West Coast company called Clean Cannabis, which is different from the Clean Cannabis Company. But we're definitely getting some chatter amongst some of the people in the industry we're talking to, and hearing some rumors that people are under the assumption that we are receiving funding from maybe this, or we have some kind of affiliation with Clean Cannabis on the West Coast. We, in fact, do not. So Derek and I are the sole owners of the Clean Cannabis Company. We own this company 50-50. We do have a private investor that does not have a stake in the company. So we appreciate you allowing us to kind of clarify that we, in fact, do not have any affiliation with Clean Cannabis or any other cannabis companies, whether it be West Coast or anywhere. It's just us.
Right.
We've been given a pretty rare opportunity, and we feel like we knocked it out of the park.
I actually wasn't meaning to talk. I was going to say that part till the end. I thought maybe just your website was getting some weird traffic because it sounds the same. Do you think that's the reason why people have these concerns, is because that they're getting to that website and thinking that maybe you're some California guys or something out here?
I guess it's a possibility. We hadn't really thought of it that way.
But then again, I don't even think that that Clean Cannabis on the West Coast really has much of a presence online. It wasn't until after the fact, somebody was like, oh, I was looking for you guys and found that there's a company on the West Coast. Have you seen this? And we were like, okay. We did a little digging into Google, and that's when it actually popped up. So
we're definitely getting a lot of foot traffic through our website and our social media. We're kind of easing into the social media aspect because there's a lot of controversy there, and essentially what you can post without being blacklisted and losing your traffic. But we've had our company truck lettered up for quite a while now. So driving around back and forth and being at stores, people see it, they see our website, they see our Instagram handle. We're getting a lot of traffic. So there's definitely people that are researching us and wanting to know more about us. So I think that, and all it takes is one or two people that gets the other website and they see the affiliation and think maybe we're related, and then people start talking. So I think that, who knows, maybe Clean Cannabis on the West Coast benefiting from us here over on the East Coast. I don't know.
That's a great point, man. They should give you a profit sharing. I wanted to, here's one that popped. So earlier, you guys, and maybe we could get another sentence or two out of Katie here. Earlier, you guys said that you have home grow experience. Have you guys ever dealt with anything on a scale this large in terms of cultivation? I know you said you had the hemp, but in terms of like an indoor grow.
Yeah, so that's true. We're definitely getting in, jumping right into the deep end. We have worked with some consultants through the process. We've taken some classes, but we're definitely getting into this fairly green and definitely learning a lot as we go. But we feel like with what we have for the facility and infrastructure and the team we've kind of assembled, that we've got all the tools we need to be successful with this.
Right on. Do you have any, you guys, so as a cultivation facility, you guys are not sort of beholden to these packaging rules. So you can just, like, when you harvest, you throw it in like a big vacuum seal bag? How do you have to package it to get it to retail?
We're videos cutting in and out. I'm not sure if you're
seeing can you hear me? Can you hear me? Are we there?
Yeah, we can hear you. We're only getting bits and pieces.
Okay, yours lagged a little bit there. I was asking about packaging to get it from your facility to a retail place and how that has to be done.
So far as the packaging, is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, right. Because I don't know. I was going to complain about the edible packaging count because I thought that was stupid, but you guys aren't really concerned with that. I guess you just have to get it from the place to a dispensary. Can you put it in a trash bag? What are we talking about? Vacuum seal bags?
To our knowledge, we'll have basically state approved, containers that we'll be housing our product in when it's, be in that limbo between harvest and getting analytics back and getting approved for market. And then, we're hoping that it's going to be able to go over to be processed further in those totes. So we won't have to really be breaking down and packaging a lot ourselves, because we're going to rely on outside processors to do a lot of that for us. So we don't have to put that infrastructure in place. So we're hoping it's going to be some decent bulk, product being moved and not necessarily having to break it down into smaller packaging.
There is going to be some packaging we will do on site though. So there's some product that will never leave our facility as far as being processed, and we will be packaging that ourselves. All of our top shelf premium stuff. Once we get the product, the packaging nailed down, we'll be packaging some of that stuff ourselves in-house, and that will be ready for dispersal to dispensaries out of our facility.
Have you guys met any packaging companies in Vermont?
We've talked to some companies that are offering that service. Again, it seems like there's still some gray area about how that facilitation is going to work, whether or not they're going to be able to come in and do it for you on site, or if you have to ship it out to them.
Are they manufacturing their own packaging?
To my knowledge, no. There's still a lot of gray area there on what packaging is going to look like. There's been some changes made as far as the conversation surrounding tamper-proof or child-proof and what that actually means, and glass versus plastic, biodegradable. It sounds like there's going to be a lot of glass packaging, but we haven't committed to anything yet because we don't feel like anything's been nailed down to the point where we feel confident in purchasing anything.
I'm still waiting for a Vermont packaging manufacturer to pop up here, and boy, that would help. It seems like that's a missing link in the chain here.
It is, and even through some of our research, a lot of stuff's coming from out west. Some of these companies really haven't made a footprint over on the East Coast. So, we're ready for some of that infrastructure to come this way.
They've invested a lot of time into setting parameters around packaging. I just hope that it's nailed down soon, so that if there is an existing company or somebody wants to start a packaging company, that they have some clear guidance and there isn't really too many questions to be raised surrounding whether or not it's legitimate or if it's what the state's looking for. Yeah. And we understand they're trying to keep the state clean. There's a lot of packaging involved with these consumables. And we don't want to see that stuff floating around either. I think some concessions have to be made and we have to come to an agreement.
I mean, yeah, if you're a manufacturer who's trying to get into making packaging and you're seeing all these rules, I mean, that's got to be tricky to design something with those parameters.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly, in my opinion, if I was looking at getting in the industry and I saw the clear as mud clarity surrounding all of this packaging, it's not any incentive to me to invest in any kind of equipment for purchasing or manufacturing any kind of packaging. Not yet, anyways.
Sure. Okay. Great point. Can you co-locate? Say you guys wanted to open like a extraction lab. Is that allowed? In the same building? Sorry.
Not for us. No. Our building was pretty much strictly designed for just cultivation. There's a lot of safety measures and compliance that has to be met to do any kind of extraction. Again, Extract Vermont's a prime example. They're in an old state lab facility, so they had a lot of pre-existing infrastructure in place. There's a huge liability dealing with some of those components, solvents and CO2, and just the cost of the equipment and infrastructure. That for us, it wasn't worth the added money it would take to expand the facility to accommodate that. There's talks of it down the road, whether or not that will be under the Clean Cannabis name or if it's a different division. Stay tuned. We have some vertical integration plans.
Or could you put a dispensary in there? Can you do retail and cultivation at the same place?
We wouldn't, for safety,
but
security
legally speaking.
Yeah. There's definitely, we've talked to a few fellow people in the industry, and they're going to be doing multiple facets. They're going to be doing manufacturing and cultivation, and maybe have a small retail. Maybe not all in one building, but in the same location. Yeah,
like at Hill Farmstead, if you go there, he's got they got the you can look through a big glass window and you can see down into the brewery, and the tourists love that. And then they got the counter where you can order up your whatever you want. Yeah, I was just curious about that. Let me talk about testing. We got about 9 minutes left. I want to ask you guys about the testing requirements. I see there's only one lab that's really got their license now. this was getting back to a point you made about the state having different definitions for everything. I'm concerned we might see some of that in the labs if they have different equipment, if they're calibrated differently, if is there any communication, who's setting the benchmarks and things like that. Do you guys have any concerns about that?
I mean, there are concerns surrounding it because your product can definitely test different at different facilities, and it can test different any day of the week. So if you were to have essentially samples pulled on a Monday and tested on a Monday and had the same core tested on a Friday, it's going to change. But as far as I imagine the state's going to have some parameters set around calibration on these pieces of equipment they're using for testing so that you're getting some legitimate accuracy across the board from everyone that's licensed. I mean, we're not looking at that equipment, so to speak to it, I guess, is a little challenging. We're relying on the fact that they've done their research and they're following compliance to ensure that we're getting proper results.
Right. And like, this is something I've been saying a lot, like, none of us are chemists. Well, I know a couple chemists, but you kind of have to just take their word for it, huh? And put a little bit of faith in them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously I'm sure there's a lot of liability. I mean, I would be curious to see what those guys' insurance policies look like, because
that's a great question. I'm going to ask some of them.
Yeah, no, that would be a great question to ask.
Yeah. And I'm also super curious if they're going to be liable, say a lab like test a sample and they miss something and then it goes out, or like say it's like moldy, or you send it to a dispensary, like, and then a dispensary sells it to somebody and they, get sick or something from smoking moldy weed. Like, who's liable for that in the chain? And usually from my bartending experience, everybody.
Sure. Yeah, there's a little bit of shared liability for, whoever's been involved in the process somewhere, It'd be interesting to see what comes of this.
Yeah, and if they don't have a consistent protocol for labs around the state, I mean, say I take my weed to you and you tell me it's 25% THC, and I take it over to this guy, he says it's 25.2 or 25.5, and then it sort of sets up maybe a situation where you're just shopping around for the lab that'll give you the best result, even though you're giving them all the same product or something.
Yeah, we've even heard some rumors about that's happened out west before, where you can almost shop around and you can kind of find the one that's going to give you a higher THC and you go with that one. What looks a little better on paper.
And it reminds me of the old days where you would have a digital scale and you have shady weed dealers who would like keep their finger on the scale when they're weighing it out, and so you get shorted a little. If you calibrate those machines just ever so slightly differently, you could have a result like that.
I would imagine the state is going to have some kind of compliance surrounding that, just like the ag department now that has weights and measures. They're out proofing gas pumps, they're in retailers checking price points. They're probably going to be in these facilities calibrating their machines and making sure that they're all on the same level. I would be very, very surprised if they didn't have something set up like that now.
They actually have individual people from the manufacturers, I believe, that come in to calibrate the machines, and then these ISO guys come in to inspect your facility. So I don't think the state has that set up. I think those are national programs, but don't quote me on that. I'm still learning. Look, guys, we got 5 minutes left. Let's go down the line. Any final thoughts from you guys?
Final thoughts, huh?
Final thoughts. You got 5 minutes, man. I'm gonna leave it open for you.
Well, I mean, being that I've personally, speaking for myself, I've kept a close eye, over the years on, emerging markets in cannabis across the country. We're up to quite a few states now with some form of legal market in place for cannabis use. And the thing that I like seeing in Vermont is, Vermont's taken the very straightforward approach of trying to keep it more focused towards locals and everything like that. So it's refreshing to see, because there's nothing worse than having an emerging market get thrown down the drain because big companies move in and they just drive the prices down and kind of, disrupt the market. So we're excited to be part of this Vermont market and emerge with it. And I feel very, very confident in where Vermont's market's heading. Even the hiccups we've had and learning with some state agencies, and we're very excited where this market's going.
Yeah, for sure. We're excited about what we've created. Derek and I have been working on this for about 3.5 years now, from start to finish. And not only are we excited about the facility and what we're going to be able to pump out of it, but finding people like Katie and creating good paying jobs for people in this industry, and surrounding ourselves with people that really want to be there. We talk to people on a daily basis that they can't find help. They can't find people that want to do the job, that really want to get out of the house and make money for themselves to feed their families. And we feel fortunate in the fact that, again, going back to the truck being lettered up, we've got people running up to us at gas stations, convenience stores. People want to come work for us. We've had people offer to come work for free.
Who did your logo? Let me interrupt you real quick. Who did the logo? I really like that. It's super clean.
Great Big Graphics in Morrisville. Yep, they did a fantastic job. We
Cool.
like it so much that we all got tattooed. So
Are any of those showable? Can we?
they are, but it's a little tough.
Let's see it. Come on.
I'll do it.
Comment
All
up
right.
on the table.
There you go. Dedication. All right, Katie. Hell
We've
yeah.
got some heat from that. We've been watching too much Yellowstone, but we've got, we poured a lot into this. We're committed. We spend so much time there, and it's not just because we're trying to get it up and making money, but we love doing it. So it's great. We want to build it to the point where we can bring on a lot more people and enjoy it with us, and create some good paying jobs, and let everyone enjoy it with us on a daily basis.
We have a
That
lot
seems
of
like
fun.
well, sorry, go ahead. No.
I was just saying, we have a lot of fun. We're a fun crew.
Yeah, we should have a beer sometime. I'm gonna cut it right here. That seems like a great place to stop. You guys have been great. Thank you so much for your time. Keep me posted on your license application. I'm trying to do follow-ups with people, so
Yeah, for sure.
I can see how psyched they are when they get their license. Do a before and after.
We're pretty excited.
We'll call you. We'll open it up on this with you.
Fantastic.
We'll get the reactions.
We'll have the beer that day.
Fantastic. All right, guys. Well, I wish you the best of luck with everything out there, and yeah, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you for giving us the opportunity.
All right, man. Take care.